Hi, and welcome to the 64 Doors. Today we're going to open door 50. Here we find the Maestro. This is a musical archetype that can create harmony and equilibrium in any group of people. We're going to explore the Maestro from a human design perspective and a Jinky perspective. So here we have the Rave Mandala with the astrological wheel. And right now we have the Sun in gate 50 on the cusp of Scorpio and Libra. And we have the Earth in gate 3 between Aries and Taurus. And the sign part of the cross is in gate 60, Aquarius and Capricorn. And then we have gate 56, Cancer and Leo. So you see there are many different astrological signs in the place this transit. So this is going to be for 6 days. The Sun is in gate 50. And if you are born in these 3 days, you're going to have one of 3 crosses. The first one is the cross of laws. The second one is the cross of values. The third one is the cross of wishes. So the cross of laws says your cross has the energy of making laws for the tribe. The cross of values says your energy is to bring forth rules and laws. And the cross of wishes says you're here to look at the systems and structures in place and offer your own view of how things could be done different. And of course, you can read a whole text. There are going to be different design parts in the 3 crosses, because the angle is 88 degrees and not 90 degrees. So you're going to have the 56 and the 60 in the right angle cross. And in the other 2 crosses, you're going to have the 31 and the 41. Another way of going about the incarnation cross is to actually learn about your activation sequence. So you would do your Jinky profile, and then you would have a whole paragraph for each one of these gates, each one of these Jinkies. So that's important, because we say that the incarnation cross is 70% of who we are, because as we were seeing in the illustration, this is the Sun and the Earth in the moment you're born, and the Sun and the Earth 3 months before, when the soul incarnated in your body. So it's very important. It's our destiny, we could say. If we go back to the body graph, we look at the standard view, we're going to see that the 50 is in the splenic center. And if you remember, we have been in the splenic center now for many transits. And the 50 is pointing towards 27 in the sacral center. This is the channel of preservation, a design of custodianship. So the quick reference theme here is you are somebody who is here to either maintain or change the values of the people in the community around you. And it says, added to this, you have an aura that generates automatic trust from others, which means that people look to you naturally for support. The only lesson you have to learn is to not take on so much responsibility that you lose sight of yourself. So you can see that in the 50 kind of takes a lot on its shoulders, and it wants to be in integrity, and it wants to weed out the corruption, you could say, in any community. It is in the tribal circuitry. And looking at just the 50, it's the gate of the cauldron, people who are here to establish or challenge values or responsibilities within the community. And in the 64 doors, you're going to see that we made this the Maestro. So it's that person who's directing all the instruments in the orchestra, and who's making that flow and that harmony between the different instruments or people. What I feel is also very interesting when it comes to the 50. So some of you may know that Richard wrote a book called 7 Years on the Wheel, where he's speaking about that 7-year process that we have in human design, and we speak about deconditioning. It takes 7 years for all the cells in the body to renew. And what Ra used to say is that that's the time that it takes to decondition everything that isn't you, everything is your not self. And in the 7-year, the way that Richard laid it out is that you start in gate 3. So I'm going to actually show you the rave mandala again so that you can kind of follow me in the illustration. So gate 3, and it's good because it's actually activated in this incarnation cross. This is where we start. You might know that one of the key words for the 52 is endings, and then the 3 is beginning. So this is the beginning of the deconditioning process. And then you go through all these gates. So what you can see in the wheel is that when we are in the 50, we are completely halfway through that whole circle around. So what Richard speaks about in the 50s, that we are at a 3.5-year point of our deconditioning. So you could say that it's a tipping point where we are starting to become more true self than not self. So it's a powerful point. And I actually I brought his book here, and I just want to read to you that 50.1, you know, with that transit. And Ashley and I were speaking about in Unlock Your Design that next year we would like to actually go through the transits as if we were doing that process of deconditioning, and read what Richard was writing for each gate, because he makes it a journey and he explains for each one of the gates. So what I'm going to read to you now is that little paragraph that has to do with the 50. So it says, as we transit through our 3.5-year point, it is as though we have reached the top of the mountain, and finally we can see down the other side. I've heard many people share their experience of passing this point in their sequence. For some, it's an inner welling up or a sense of rising optimism. For others, it's a physical event that transforms them into a new person. For me, it was the birth of my son. Whatever this looks like, you are now assured of reaching the goal of being yourself, and you can feel it within the physical cells of your body. The 50 line 1 is the immigrant. You are finally allowed into the country of your true self. Your genetic passport is stamped. The 50th hexagram is a magical hexagram which the Chinese named cosmic order. It is the point of equilibrium of the whole wheel. It is the fulcrum of all human and cosmic laws. So this is powerful. I actually happen to have the 50.1 in my design Pluto. So I feel like it has to do with part of that transformation that I'm here to learn about in this incarnation. So yeah, let's continue. I thought this was so worth mentioning. So let's continue to the gene keys. So this is, you can see that's where Richard started with the human design, and like looking at the deconditioning process, the true self and not self, and then what he came to develop, that he probably would say that we have more access to the different frequencies after that 3.5-year point. Like when we are more in our true self, we are going to be able to navigate the spectrum of consciousness, where we speak about in the gene keys that in every gene key, in every gate, we have this spectrum from a low contracted tense frequency to a high loving expansive frequency. And as humans, we can navigate. So it's not that we're never going to be in a low frequency. It's not that we are always oriented. And that is gene key 2 in a way. It's like that's our direction. It's an orientation. So here in the living library, he's pointing out the low frequency in red, and it's also showing us that programming partner. So the beginning of the wheel and the midpoint of the wheel is what we have here. So corruption and chaos are the two lower frequencies. Then we have equilibrium and innovation in the gift frequency, which is where it's our pathway. It's kind of where we want to create, where we want to live, where we want to experience life. And then, like we said, we're going to dip down in the shadow, but we're going to have awareness around it, so we can always choose a different attitude or different actions to see how we can pop up in a higher frequency. And we're also going to have those glimpses of the acidic frequency, which here is harmony in a sense. Speaking about the I Ching, this was the cauldron, like we were saying in the circuitry book. It's fire over wind. And it says, gentle wood fuels the fire above, brewing magic in a good way by feeding the fire with the highest intent. And here you can see the geometry. So we have, this is the 30th hexagram, this is the 57th hexagram. So that is the geometry that we were seeing before. The 30 is fire and the 57 is wind. So corruption is desiring unease. Equilibrium is light intuition, and harmony is rapturous clarity. And I already mentioned the astrology, which is now, it has both the Libra and the Scorpio, depending on what line, of course, you're born in. But here we have a hexagram that is rich in that sense. So we have been for now a month in Libra, partner, peace bringer, diplomat. It's about collaboration and connection. And now we're going into Scorpio, the shaman, the alchemist. And it's about authenticity, it's about depth. And here we have in the new sign, it's about service to self-growth through the authentic expression of the awakened heart. The codon ring, this is the codon ring of the Illuminati. So it's together with the 44. They are both splenic gates. They have to do with teamwork and equilibrium. And basically, when we are in teamwork and equilibrium, there is nobody who's kind of can do anything that can corrupt us. There is no way. This is always going to win over anything. So it is, these are times of change, and there's a lot that's coming up that we're able to see as we come into our own equilibrium, to our own ability to use the 44 to create synergies and to create teamwork. We are going to be able to also discern much more of what's going on. And that's what the 50 wants. That's what it likes, to weed out that corruption, for sure. And then integral human design. So here is beautiful, because integral human design is creating the frequency band not only for the gates but also for the channels. So here you can see the stream of relationships. That is that kind of smile in the body graph, and it says it's a channel of nurturing. It says responsibility on the low level. So we would have the low frequency of the 50, corruption, and here it's selfishness, corruption and selfishness. That leads to irresponsibility in relationships, especially. And then the higher frequency, nurturing and generosity. And we have the mudra and the dream arc. So let's see, let's go here. So this is Jane Addams' blog. The dream arc is spider, raccoon, and goose. And the mudra, let's see where it is. Here you have the mudra. The mudra of harmony is a conch shell. Tuck the left thumb inside finger of right hand. Left forefinger rests on right thumb. It forms a spiral. And then here you have it, and here you have it again. Okay. So this week I would look into the deconditioning process, and I would think back to when you started with human design and gene keys. Maybe you just discovered it, and then you can think about already, maybe from 2 years ago to now, what is your experience? What have you noticed in your life that is different, or that comes into your awareness, for example? And if you have been in it for a longer time, I would really invite you to look into your life and your attitude about life before you started and now. That is, for me, it's amazing when we do that and we realize what happens when we come in more and more and more in our true self. And I would also challenge you to look at, is this for you more than anything a mental contemplation? If you feel like, yeah, it's interesting, but nothing has really shifted in my life, then I feel like it is really the invitation to start living this transmission, to start embodying it. Because as something in our mind that's not put into practice, it's just not worth anything, is what I feel. And look at your life. What are the places where you feel corruption? where are the places where you don't have this balance, this equilibrium, and start to take responsibility for those places. I was hosting a masterclass today that had to do with attracting your ideal partner, and the person who was doing the masterclass was speaking about how you have to treat yourself in the world the way you want to be treated, because that's putting out how it's to the universe, like how you expect yourself to be treated. And that's really, really interesting. and I can feel that in myself, that I haven't always been treating myself so well. And that's probably why I have been creating relationships with interference and corruption, which is the low frequency of the 44 and the 50. So look at that. Look at how do you treat yourself in a corrupted way, and then expect yourself to have a good teamwork with others or equilibrium. That's probably not going to happen. So I wish you all a good week, and I'm going to see you next week.